Kimbo Slice just a few days ago. At a very young age, early 40s, I want to say 42, I'll check it up here quick at some point in time, but his passing just kind of bringing back to reality, you know, and I should say bringing perspective back into the world of UFC that we're all just freaking out in for these other stuff. Giant news announced regarding UFC 200, who's going to be fighting at that, and the big announcement is regarding the co-main event of UFC 200, and that's what's got me the most fired up in the world of UFC, let alone all the other stuff going on in UFC that's got me fired up. So, gotta be truthful, gotta be honest. We're starting in the world of Ultimate Fighting Championship Mixed Martial Arts. Boom, so strap in. If you are not a fight fan, well, maybe you should give it a shot. It's some entertaining stuff, alright? But it is one thing that we pride ourselves here on Balls Deep Sports Talk. It is not, doesn't matter what my personal, preference is for a sport, how much a certain team or event or sport or whatever is my cup of tea or not. Doesn't matter. Doesn't even matter really how much I know about it, a certain subject or topic or sport. And you're saying to yourself, well, duh, Scotty, we've noticed that since the first time we started listening, and to which I say, touche. But we try to be honest, and we try to be fair and open-minded and equality-based as much as possible. Just because, for example, the winner of the French Open tennis major might not spike the meter nationally very much, I'm still going to give it its proper dues because it's a sport and it's a championship, and to somebody it might be their favorite, biggest thing going on in the world of sports right now. So you're dang right I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to try to give it equal attention to the best of my ability. That was just an example. So hence, starting in the world of UFC Mixed Martial Arts. So, instead of starting out chronologically with what happened first and then kind of working our way through that order, we're going to start out with what's the single thing that's got me the most on fire, hence the name of the topic, or the segment I should say. And that happens to be an announcement that came out Saturday night towards the end or at the end of UFC 199. I unfortunately was not able to watch UFC 199. I was working that Saturday night, as I usually am on Friday and Saturday nights. But so throughout the night, me and one of my coworkers were checking our phones to, keep up on what's happening with the matches and whatnot. And it gets to the end of the night, and we're looking at our phones, and he has a message on his, and he comes running up to me and reads the message, and I'm like, no way. And I mean, as fast as our thumbs could tap touch screens, we were both on our phones trying to verify the news. And we did, in fact, verify that upcoming here at UFC 200 on July 9th, 2016, in the co-main event of the card, returning to the octagon, the Beast, Brock Lesnar. Can you freaking believe it? Brock Lesnar is returning to the UFC for a fight that is happening a month from right now, exactly a month from today, here June 9th, on July 9th, 2016, Brock Lesnar returns to the UFC octagon, former world heavyweight UFC champion. And he will be taking on Mark the Super Samoan Hunt. Now, reports coming out as of the last few days is that Brock Lesnar is going to be allowed exemption from early drug testing ahead of UFC 200. 4-month notice USDA drug testing requirement waived for Brock Lesnar. So he does not have to pass the kind of drug testing that fighters normally have to pass. And Mark Hunt, his opponent, went on record, I want to say today, it looks like, that he believes Brock Lesnar is, and I quote, juiced to the gills. That meaning he believes Brock Lesnar is very much using performance-enhancing drugs and or steroids, whatever you want to call it. So that will definitely be, a talker and a possible asterisk that will be attached to this fight or whatever after it plays out. But the fact of the matter is that Brock Lesnar, who is currently under a monster multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract with the WWE, is returning to UFC a month from now. Now, when this was reported late Saturday night, apparently it was not how the UFC and Dana White planned to announce this epic news. It was leaked by a Yahoo reporter, I want to say, and following, 2 days later, I want to say it was on Monday then, they let Sunday go, and then on Monday, Dana White came out and said that reporters will no longer be allowed at UFC. He's banning all reporters, as knee-jerk, hardcore of a response as you could have possibly taken. So we'll see how long that takes to be revised and modified. Kind of funny, but at least that's how I took it. I just took it as humorous. I didn't really take it as this big serious thing that some people are taking it as. I took it as just temporary humor. It's not going to stay in place. You can't revoke the First Amendment from people because they did something you don't like. That's just not how it works. Far as I know, I don't know. Now, the one thing that I thought of that I want to bring up, and I heard a very good counterpoint immediately the first time I thought this, and I couldn't help but agree. But I couldn't help but wonder, with Conor McGregor Diaz 2 having supposed to be at 200, main eventing it, and then getting pulled and replaced with Jones Cormier 2, couldn't help but wonder if this was, some kind of not original idea, but a response to that as a way to try and boost interest and pay-per-view numbers and things like that, because maybe since that announcement had been made and the new main event was scheduled, and now that we're only a month away, maybe the numbers financially, business-wise, are not where Dana White wanted or needed them to be for this big UFC 200 event that they've been pushing for quite a while now. And that was why he went to his trump card that he had in his back pocket. I know if I ever need Brock for a fight, I've got one fight already okayed with him and Vince and everybody, So now the counters that I heard to that are very legit is just that, this has to have been in place at least for a while, because neither fighter can just go into this with a month to train and know who your opponent is and all that stuff, which I completely agree. But was this in place to happen? Well, was there any idea or talk of having Brock Lesnar fight at UFC 200 within the Dana White UFC, hierarchy camp? Was there any talk of that before the McGregor-Diaz 2 fight was pulled from the card? That's what I would like to know. Very curious about that, and I don't think I'll ever find out an honest, true answer to that. But it's, like I said, I think it's a juicy, thinker worth Christian pondering. But Sorry. Now, another question you might be asking, I know I was immediately, the first question I was asking, other than is it true, I should say the second question I was asking was, how can this happen with Brock currently being under contract with WWE? Well, apparently, when Brock retired from UFC, he still was under contract with them, and then when he sought employment again here now at the WWE, he had to get UFC's blessing. I guess it was a similar enough of an occupation that he did need their approval, based off of what I've been told. Which could be wrong. You'd have to ask Brock, I guess, or someone else to know for sure. But with that came the understanding that if Brock ever wants to fight MMA again, that he will do it exclusively with UFC, and that he will be allowed to do that. And that was the agreement between WWE and UFC. I believe Brock has no interest in returning to a, full-time fighting, UFC job, and I don't think he could with the WWE, but I think he could pace it where he's part-timing, as a big draw in the UFC, the same way that he part-times as a big draw in the WWE. It is also possible, however, that it is a one-off. That this will be one fight to go do it, make some money, see if he can do it, and then they will have to, renegotiate Brock's WWE contract that he's currently under if he wants to change to a more full-time UFC fighter. Which, if he has any interest in capturing the belt again in UFC, he would need to do that. They're not going to give him a title fight when he's got exemptions to drug rules and stuff like that. Like, you can't even do that. These are more exhibition, technically, than anything, fights, or a fight that Brock is going to be appearing in. But again, we only know of this one here at 200. It's very possible that that'll be the only one, especially if Brock goes in and loses. I don't know. He might just stick to WWE. Nobody wants Brock to lose this fight except for Hunt. Dana White wants Brock to win this. The WWE wants Brock to win this. Almost 90% of fans want Brock to win this. Everybody except for Mark Hunt and his camp wants Brock to win this because it's best for business for so many people. Should Hunt pull off the upset and beat Brock at 200, oh boy, that's going to be bad for a lot of brands, So, but anyway, let's take a look at UFC 200's full fight card here, and then let's recap the events of last weekend's UFC 199, that fights that actually took place, not fights that are upcoming, fights that actually happened and we should be talking about. We'll do that, and then we will move on to other areas of the sports world. So, as I mentioned, your co-main event is Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. Even though the match card I'm looking at here, which is supposed to have them in order, does not have it as the co-main event. It's got it the third match on the main card, 3 before the main event. I'm not sure, that could just be a listing thing. Or maybe it is going to be lower down on the card. Not sure. Keep an eye out for that. But anyway, the main event is Jon Bones Jones versus Daniel Cormier. That is a title fight. That is a huge, highly anticipated rematch. We've got Jose Aldo versus Frankie Edgar in a title fight. We've got Miesha Tate defending that's her first title defense, I believe, since beating Holly Holm for the belt. It's possible that I forgot about one because, again, they've been doing such a bad job of promoting the last couple UFCs. But anyway, she'll be taking on Amanda Nunes with her title on the line. We mentioned the Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt fight. We've got Travis Brown taking on Cain Velasquez, who was one of our We were trying to brainstorm who's Brock going to take on, and Hunt actually never came up with like 5 or 6 names we thought were good.